In the beginning, there was darkness, nothingness, no one except for God. And into the darkness, God spoke, "Let there be light." And light entered the universe. Out of nothingness, God spoke and created something, a perfect world full of life and beauty. And into this world, God spoke and created human beings. First, God created a man. He named him Adam, and God told Adam to rule over the land and the animals. But God saw that Adam was alone, and out of all of his good and perfect creation, God said, "This is not good. It's not good for man to be alone." So God created someone else. God created a woman from one of Adam's ribs, and God named her Eve. And Adam said, "That's lit, that's lit." And it was lit. God lived in perfect relationship with Adam and Eve, and they were so thankful to live in this perfect world he had created for them. In fact, when the world was perfect, there was only one rule.
Adam and Eve, I have created for you a perfect world, and I've placed you in this garden to live.
Thanks, God. That's mad lit of you.
I don't think you're using that correctly. Anyway, you may eat anything in this garden, even this tree over here, the tree of life.
Yeah, that tree looks great. It's mad lit.
Yeah, no, we get it, mad lit. Look, you need to spend a little less time with Adam. Anyway, that tree is great. You should eat from it. The only tree you shouldn't eat from is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat from that tree, you will surely die.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yeah, we need to workshop that name. It's not very catchy. Too many syllables.
How about the tree of death?
Sounds good to me. What do you think, God?
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just don't eat from it.
Hey, great job on that name.
Thanks, babe.
So Adam and Eve continued to live in perfect relationship with each other and with God as they ate from the tree of life, but avoided the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of death. But one day, the devil came into the garden.
What's up?
Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying this beautiful garden you got here. I was wondering why I never see you guys eating any fruit. Did that God guy really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden?
Of course we can. We can eat from any tree in the garden, just not from the tree of death. The tree of ultimate destruction. We're workshopping a new name.
What? So he's telling you what trees you can and can't eat from?
He said we'd die if we eat from it.
Oh, come on. You're not gonna die from eating fruit. The only thing you'll die from eating is Taco Bell.
Taco Bell slam!
God doesn't want you to eat that fruit because he wants to control you. And he knows if you eat from that tree, you'll be just like him and out of his control. If you ask me, that's not mad lit at all.
You're right. That is the opposite of mad lit. And because you used a word that I previously used, I instantly trust you.
And so Eve ate from the tree that God commanded her not to. And she even worked hard to convince Adam to eat from that tree as well.
And you want some of this fruit from that tree of death that God told us not to eat from?
Yeah, sure, why not? Okay, so she didn't work that hard, but Adam and Eve did disobey God, and instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they hid from God, which never works out well.
Adam, Eve, where are you guys? Not like I couldn't find out. I am God and all.
Sorry, God, we were hiding because we were afraid you'd be mad at us.
Why? Wait, you didn't eat from the tree I told you not to, did you?
God, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to lie. It is 100% all Eve's fault.
What?
Yeah, she's all blaming you like,
God wants to control us. That's why he doesn't want us to eat that fruit, because then we'd all be like him.
That's you. That's what you sound like.
Wait, I didn't do that. It was the devil's fault. He's the one who said all those things, so it's not really my fault.
Stop it. Stop blaming other people for your mistakes. It's not Eve's fault you ate the fruit, Adam. It's not the devil's fault you ate it, Eve. And it's not my fault that the devil lied to you. You are responsible for your own actions.
And even though they tried to pass the blame on others, Adam and Eve were forced to take the responsibility for their disobedience by being banished from the perfect garden God had created for them. But God did not leave them. He stayed with them because He loved them.
So even from the beginning of time, our relationships haven't been perfect. Adam and Eve couldn't take responsibility for their own actions, and so they blamed each other and even blamed God. Today we're continuing in a series all about relationships. We're calling it Let the Games Begin, and we're talking about how when it comes to playing board games or sports, it's okay to be competitive. In those environments, we want to do whatever it takes to win. But when it comes to our relationships, we don't want to compete against one another. We don't want a winner and a loser. We want both people to win. With our friends, our siblings, our parents, we don't want to have opponents to compete against. We want partners to love us and support us and encourage us. However, when we play games in our relationships, we don't experience that kind of life. One of the games we often play is one we saw Adam and Eve play in their relationship with each other and with God. It's called the blame game. The blame game happens whenever there's a problem in our relationship or we get into an argument. We don't own up to our part of the problem. We, like Adam and Eve, just blame someone else. Why didn't you get your homework done? Well, my little brother kept bugging me all night and so I couldn't focus. Or what about this one? Hey, why did you yell at your mom? Dad, she was acting totally crazy, like totally unreasonable. In other words, my actions, not my fault. I'm not the one to blame, someone else is. I mean, if he didn't do that, I wouldn't have done this. If she hadn't said that, I wouldn't have yelled at her. Now, let me ask you this. Does that ever actually work? Does your dad ever say, "Oh my goodness, your mom was acting crazy? Well, then we should lock her up and you should get off scot-free for yelling, cussing, and storming out"? No, because even if someone else did something wrong, they can't force you to do something wrong. You are the only one in control of you. No one else is. And so when we spend all of our time focusing on what the other person did wrong and putting the blame for our actions on someone else, nothing gets better. The relationship certainly doesn't get better, and you don't grow closer to someone when you blame them for all the problems. But you yourself don't grow, because when you blame, you stay the same. And it rhymes, so it must be true. Here's the deal. I am the only person I can control. And so when there's a problem in a relationship, the first thing I should do is ask, what part of this problem is my responsibility? My homework, my chores, picking up my stuff, it's my responsibility. The things I do, the things I say, the things I feel, they are my responsibility. The way I act, the way I treat people, the way I respond to a situation is my responsibility. And so it doesn't matter what someone else does. I am responsible for what I do and what I say. And so if I want the relationship to grow, if I want myself to grow and become a better person, I can't keep blaming other people for the things that are my responsibility. Because when I blame, I stay the same. So today in your groups, talk about how we can learn to stop the blame game and then